This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Broadcasting 2 hours daily from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Information's on the website. And you may listen live. You may listen on your smartphone, and you can go to usaprepares.com and click on Listen to Vincent. And that will take you to the live broadcast and the podcast, should you like to download them. By the way, I was talking with a member of GCN's team, and they said we are one of the most listened to broadcasts on the telephone lines that they have. So I want to thank our class for sharing this broadcast with friends and family and for being a member of USAPrepares.com. Thank you very much. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Tom is producing the broadcast live in Minnesota at GCN. And today we're going to be talking about inside prison, the reality, with Mike Parsons. Welcome, Mike Parsons.
Good morning, Vincent.
Good morning, Mike. Mike, it's great to have you on the broadcast. I just want to share with the class that you're a commercial pilot, a private pilot, a farmer. You're a Nemenha, a Native American medicine man. You have Native American blood, and you're a USAPrepares.com instructor. I'm so glad you're with us. By the way, Mike, I've got a post on our website, and let's see. This post talks about the Nazi flag, the Confederate flag, and the Redskins logo. Do you take, as a Native American, do you take offense at the team name Redskins?
Not at all. I think that's just a diversionary tactic to try to draw people's focus away from the real issues. This comes up every so often when there's a lot going on in the media. They'll throw out this issue about the team, the Redskins or the Atlanta Braves. You know, the Memphis Chicks is the former AA baseball team, a farm team for St. Louis, was Chicks was short for Chickamauga, which was a Native American nation indigenous to the area in northern Mississippi and Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And no one has a problem with that name, and certainly when their mascot runs out, you know, the brave Indian who's very strong and capable and ready to fight and do battle, that shows honor and integrity amongst a nation of people who stood their ground and stepped out of line when necessary, as it were.
Yeah, and I like that term that you've coined, step out. Mike, I got on my screen in front of me an image of 1933 Pontiac, and on the hood ornament is Chief Pontiac. He is the hood ornament of the Pontiac Chief automobile. So I kind of think that would be an honor, wouldn't it?
I do. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and certainly it's no secret that the state of Tennessee is properly pronounced Tennessee. It is a Cherokee name, and most of the towns and counties throughout Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas, as well as Tennessee, are derived. Their names are derived from Native American influence, and they're not just some oddity out there. And a lot of times people don't understand what the name stands for, Itawamba, Mississippi, has a sign entering Itawamba County. Welcome to Itawamba, native name, but small town traditional values. So they're trying to distinguish themselves directly right on top of the fence that, yes, they support the original name and the original people, but yet we are proud to be true colonialist in every sense of the term of European descent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and whenever I meet a Native American, for the first time I apologize for all the damage we've done and for the theft we've undertaken.
There's no need for that, though. With all due respect, you had nothing to do with that. The people that were responsible for these atrocities were very few, and they relied on the ignorance and the stupidity of people following orders. And there are books that are written about the Trail of Tears. I have many in front of me where there's actual diaries taken from Union soldiers that were transporting them, and they spoke of the fact that the Native Americans, the Cherokee, didn't complain, didn't do anything. The women were very honorable. The men were very honorable. There was certainly cases in modern history where when people are in crisis, they freak out and they go crazy and they destroy their communities and kill each other. That was not the cultural way of the Native American. There was honor in even defeat, and certainly that is reflected in these letters, and I think it would do everyone a great deal of service to go back and read through these accounts to find out exactly the Native American way is the way of the origins of the founders of this country, because they didn't find it. It wasn't lost. It was already inhabited, and the Articles of Confederacy and, of course, our very own Declaration of Independence, which references the matter of being endowed by our Creator. It doesn't say God, it says Creator, with life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, because that was the verbatim declaration found in the Iroquois Confederacy's Constitution that had been around for over 200 years. And, of course, that was from the Iroquois Confederacy was the civilized tribes of the East, the Oneida, the Cherokee, the Seminole, Blackfoot, and I believe Creek. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But that's the origin. Oh, okay, my wife just corrected me, not Blackfoot. I married a full-blooded Irish woman who's a better student of history than myself in many cases. But the fact is that we are a peaceful people who want to be left alone and tend to our own affairs. That's the foundation of this country. Leave us alone, King George. Get out of our affairs. Go do your own thing. And we don't need a daddy. We don't need a king over us. We are independent. And, of course, it was the culture of the Native Americans who had never been slaves. All these other people, George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, they were born British subjects. They were born a slave to a king, to another man. They were under the dominion of another man, not the Native Americans. So when they grew up around the Native Americans, they learned quite quickly the concept of freedom and liberty. Being left alone was a good thing. And Mike, in those days, if you stood out of line, well, just like today, they come after you, they incarcerate you, and if need be, they put you in front of a wall and shoot you. So unless we all come together and have an awakening, this trend will continue, and I, for one, believe that we can educate our fellow man, we can have an awakening, and peacefully we can take back what is rightfully ours and send the tyrants to the 7-Eleven concrete caverns of West Tennessee State Prison and others throughout this country, and let them see how it is to have some time to think about their crimes.
Mike, you talked about ignorance and stupidity of people following orders. And naturally, that triggered my thoughts to our previous broadcast on life inside prison when you were talking about the guards that just seem to follow orders. Are there guards in prison who don't follow orders? And if so, what happens to them?
Well, there are, and there are some that do not even acknowledge the policy manual, and they just run amok and do whatever they please, and for the most part, they're protected by the system. Then there are other guards who actually try to follow the policy, but yet when they see that there is a need for something in the way of humanity, they step out of line too. Now, those are the ones that never advance, but they have some integrity about them. And the few that I ran across that fit into that category, they were local, homegrown people that lived in the community, and this was the only job. There was nothing else available, and they needed to be able to stay close to their family. Single moms, single dads, and sometimes people that just didn't have the capacity or the means to drive long distances to go find a job in another county. And that's what you'll find across this country is most of these communities are counties that virtually have no jobs, no industry, except for the prison. And they do that by design. They run everything off because all they want is a closed shop so that they can control everyone. But yes, there are officers that totally do whatever they want in many respects, and to the detriment of the inmates, unfortunately, that's where the abuses begin. Because if they actually followed the policy manual, it really wouldn't be that bad for most people. And certainly, with the exception of the law in Tennessee that allows them to actually do medical experimentation on the inmates, which they do, the policy manual verily, I would say, and I didn't have the ability to read all of it because that's the problem. You don't have access to all the rules and regulations that you're asked to sign off on when you first enter the building that you're going to follow. So how can you follow rules that you've never been apprised of? But there is actually a policy that says if you've never been apprised of that policy and the warden is required to read you all the rules, we know the warden is not going to read you all the rules, that's the grounds that you would argue on your appeal when you're punished. Of course, you're already punished. They take all your things and they throw them in a buggy, a laundry buggy, and they take them with you to the hole, and then the guards go through your things, and they sift out the things that they want, and they steal them from you, such as your food, any appliances that you might buy for yourself on commissary if you've been there long enough, coffee pots, TVs, radios, batteries.
Mike, hold that thought. Mike, hold that thought. We're going into a break. Mike Parsons, Vin Finella, USAPrepares.com. Life inside prison, the reality. When we come back. Class, I just received an email this morning from Grace Thorne. She and her 6th grade class will be with us here at USAPrepares.com asking college-level science questions on Thursday. Of course, Dr. Richard Allen Miller will be answering the questions. That's next Thursday. And there's a meetup Monday. Where Did the Towers Go? Dr. Judy Wood will be with us for part 2. She's doing a live teleseminar with a PowerPoint presentation, and she will be answering questions. Hopefully we won't get thrown out of Ziggy's again, but that will be Monday. Dr. Judy Wood, Ziggy's, Sunshine in Glenstone, Springfield, Missouri, 5:30. The seminar is absolutely free, and you can meet a whole bunch of your instructors, USAPrepares.com instructors. Mike Parsons is with us, and we're talking about life inside prison. Mike, you mentioned that it seems that prisons seem to target small communities, and I can tell you that you're absolutely right. Back in the 1990s, a private prison tried to take over a little town that I lived in Virginia. And when I found out about it, I rallied the troops and made a lot of noise. Went on the radio, and we actually defeated them. We kicked that private prison out of our community, and the town fathers, the county wanted it, everybody wanted it, and it was a rough fight. It was a really, really rough fight, but we did win. So you're absolutely right. They tried to tell you how many jobs they're going to create. In a town of 500 people, they told us they were going to create 110 jobs. Now, obviously, class, when you think about this, you may think that 110 jobs, that's great, in a small community. But who's to say that you're going to get that job? Who's going to say that those jobs go to the residents of that little town? Think about it. So, and then your town will be known as, oh, yeah. That's that you live in that town with the prison, right? Think about it. And then the other thing that I really took a lot of heat about was I said that prisoners have friends like they're prisoners. And that's absolutely true. Prisoners seem to have friends just like them, and they come to visit the prisoners. So now Mike Parsons, who is a good guy, has friends just like Mike Parsons. I am a friend of Mike Parsons. So I believe that people in prison have friends just like them. Mike, do you disagree or agree?
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I took a lot of heat about that because people said, how can you say that? How can you say that the they're going to be a bunch of bad people hanging around the prison visiting the prisoners? How can you say that? And I said it's because people like them, meaning,
Vincent, at my first parole hearing, the parole officer that was over the unit that I was in went to the parole officer that was judging to determine whether or not they would grant me parole, and he went to her and said, "Look at this guy's file. The guy shouldn't even be here. This is so wrong." And then all of the people there that were speaking on my behalf, I had 2 retired FedEx DC-10 captains. I had a retired assistant comptroller for the Navy. I had business owners from the community. These are all family and friends. These were the people that I associated with a first vice president of one of the largest banks in the area. And all of these people were there saying that this is a travesty of justice. This person shouldn't be here. We ask that he be released immediately. And the lady said, "Yes, I recommend that you be released immediately, and that's what I will put forward to the panel in Nashville. But I must tell you that we've gotten one letter of opposition to your release." And we couldn't imagine who that would be. It was the district attorney who I had a federal lawsuit against prior to the trial for abuse of power and basically trying to railroad me when I had proof that he had attempted this criminal act. And his letter basically described me as the most dangerous man in the state of Tennessee, and that he believed that the sentence was proper and that I should be kept in prison for as long as possible. Now, this is a guy who's taken an oath, and under the Code of Ethics, he's required by Code of Ethics in the Constitution of the state of Tennessee to do the right thing at all times, even if it shows that at some point that what they're doing is wrong. They're supposed to stop and correct it. But they can't, because these are political goons that are there because people of means put them there. They're their tools. And because I was such a threat, and I was a threat because, number one, I could not be extorted. I spoke the truth. I was not corruptible. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the power. I cared about my family and my community and about cleaning house.
Mike, hold that thought. Let's talk about poison in prison. Class, I want to read an email that I got about the last time Mike Parsons was on the air with us. It says, "Vincent, your last interview with Mike shedding light on the prison industry and the rampant corruption there was enlightening and alarming. I wonder if they aren't doing brain x-rays on the prisoners as some type of experimentation. It seems everything they do is to make money. It is certainly not for the health of the prisoners. I also found it telling that Mike saw no prisoners over the age of 62. The food conditions, flu shots, and vaccines seem to be doing their work. Alex Jones has been saying that life expectancy in the USA is dropping. Many of our children now have diets exactly like the prisoners. I believe that all school lunches and fast food are variations of pink slime and lab-made chemicals. Most of the students at my school eat nothing but chips, Cheetos, cookies, and they drink soda all day." That is from a teacher who is a USAPrepares.com instructor, and she will remain nameless. Mike, poison in the, or do you want to comment on that?
Well, the prison system is an industry. The fact is that in Tennessee, every prison has an industry, including the manufacture of Shaw hardwood flooring in East Tennessee. If you buy the hand distressed, rubbed, scraped hardwood flooring at $2.50 a foot, there's an inmate making 30 cents an hour. That's a top wage job. They're hand doing that for 8 hours a day. instead of going down to Mexico and getting slave wages or China, they do it right here because they incarcerate people that are not threats to the community, and they keep them in these houses of hell for long periods of time, and they guarantee in these private prisons that the state of Tennessee pays for, they guarantee them 95% occupancy. By law, there's a law in Tennessee that they guarantee the CCAs 95% occupancy. In other words, they have to generate inmates for their slave labor camps. The prison that I was at, they made the license plates for the state of Tennessee. They also made scrubs. So if you see a doctor or a nurse walking around with blue scrubs, they're probably made at the Henning Hotel. Now, I was fortunate. I was able to be assigned as the yard man, which was a job that most people didn't want because I was outside walking around all day picking up trash along the fence. I was outside the wire for the first 10 months, and I had the benefit of also, because of my nature and spirit, I was able to interface with the animals. I had 3 litters of cats that I raised. There was 1 litter of puppies that I raised. And I'll refrain from discussing what some of the guards did with these animals, but there's a certain amount of humanity with the inmates in that they all seemed to want to sneak out some food when the cats would sneak into the yard, and they would feed the cats. We actually even had skunks that would come up and eat out of your hand, as well as 1 gray fox. And those were things that might seem odd, but the ability to interface with one of God's creatures that is not corrupted, that is just trying to survive, and is looking for anything that it can in the way of compassion from another creation of God, was an amazing thing. And these were the things that I spoke about when I would go to the church's meetings. I would talk about these things, and I would encourage people to go out and try to do these things and get back to God, get back to the creation. And it changed a lot of people, their perspective of their incarceration. It gave them an escapism, as it were, to be able to deal with the confinement. Because it's a living hell when you're locked up like that and you're used to being out and being a free individual. It's not a good thing.
Mike, I've never shared this with you. I haven't even shared this on the air. When I lived in Virginia, I moved to Virginia, and there was a company called, it was Shaw, the same company that you're talking about. And this was a rug manufacturing company. I'll bet you it's the same company. And they gave up manufacturing in this small town that I lived in Virginia. And they just abandoned the factory. So after about a year, I went to the town fathers, and I said, I'll tell you what, there are a lot of, no, not less than a year. I went to the town fathers, and I said, look, there's this huge factory, and it's in town, but it's sitting there empty. I'll tell you what, why don't you guys write a letter to Shaw, tell them that you will forgive all the taxes on that factory, and I will take my computer company, and I will give 49% of it to all of those laid-off factory workers, every single one who wants to participate. I will train them for 6 months on how to run a computer company. I will train them from top to bottom. We will be manufacturing computers. I will give them almost half of my company for free, as long as they stay. And they will be owners. They will have shares in this company, my computer company. And we will become a little gateway, like Gateway Computers at the time. And they laughed at me, Mike. They literally laughed at me. But here's what happened next. Shortly after that, there was this prison that was coming to town. It was coming to town. And it was going to go in that old Shaw building, Mike.
They took your idea, Vincent, because the powers that be, the governors of the state of Tennessee, are the partial owners of every one of these industries. There are state senators and representatives that are partial owners of each of these industries. It's all about lining their pockets. They took a Walmart in the town close to where I was staying. It was an older Walmart that had been shut down. They built a new Walmart. They took the inmates and they converted the old Walmart into a new jail for that city.
That's what I'm talking about. This building was like the size of a Walmart, Mike, and everybody was in on it. And I'll tell you, Mike, it was the toughest thing to fight. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was so hard to fight a prison coming to the center of our little town. It was almost impossible to defeat it. It took radio. It took going on the radio. It took advertisements in a newspaper. It took meetings. And I almost got fired as a school teacher because I got involved with trying to stop this prison coming to our town. And what I said was, I'll tell you what, if our community wants it, fine. But if they don't want it, it's not fine.
It's the just
and I
system.
I said, let's bring it up to a vote, and we'll have 3 public hearings on it, and then after that we'll have a vote. And if our community, our little town, agrees that this is what we really need to have, then I'll back off. But until that, I'm not backing off. And Mike, it was a unbelievable fight. So anyway, we won. But let's. I hear your doorbell.
Sorry about that.
I hear your doorbell. Hey, Mike. Poison in the prisons. Are the prisoners being poisoned with chemicals added to their food and their water?
Yeah, the jail and the prison both were tainting the food, and just before I was sentenced in the jail, they literally somehow, now I'm a retired licensed general contractor. I've held every mechanical license in the state of Tennessee. I was a heating and air conditioning contractor and consultant. They somehow piped in natural gas, which has captain, which has a distinct odor, into the ductwork, which by design, that can never happen with the furnace unless you've got a big hole in the heat exchanger.
Right.
Well, for 2 days, they were piping natural gas into the cells, and everybody was getting sick, and we were complaining, but yet they acted as though they were so incompetent that they couldn't just go shut the gas off. And finally, they got it stopped, but how much exposure to that natural gas do you have to deplete your oxygen level? I actually requested an oxygen level test, and, well, they reluctantly did it 2 days after they put the oxygen back in and shut down the natural gas. And so, of course, my readings were close to normal. They weren't high. They weren't normal, but they were in the low normal. But the reality is that this is what goes on, and people don't know about it. And those people, when they find out about it, they have the authority to do something in the administration. They do nothing. They do nothing because they don't want to have the state or the county or the city held financially responsible. And that's what it's all about, circling the wagons and covering for the evil. And in every one of these small towns, I guarantee you, there's a Masonic order that's running the prison. In Tennessee, the Masons run the prisons, and one of the people that I interfaced with there that was over my unit, he was a Mason, and I confronted him about the things that were going on, and we had a very brief discussion about faith, and he did not believe in God, and he believed in supporting the power, which he believed was Lucifer, and he was vocal about that, and he said, Mike, I don't think you deserve to be here, but virtually every guard and everyone in the administration here is part of the Masons, and if you go against one of them or if they take a dislike to you, I'll have to side with them, and things are going to be really, really hard. So just stay out of their way, and I'll try to look out for you and make sure that nothing happens to you. At the end of the day, he would side with the evil and the power. He's made his choice. His test has been handed out, and he's received his diploma. At the end of the day, at the end of time, his accounting will be satisfied. His account will be rendered in that category. Everyone has an accounting. Everyone has a choice. There will be a test for everyone. You have to choose. Will you step out of the boat and stand for good and righteousness and honor and truth, or will you follow what is the perceived power and be doomed? There's your choice.
Mike,
everyone has a choice.
Mike, what you just said connected some more dots. When you said Shaw Hardwoods, Shaw Carpeting, that connected some dots for me, as I discussed. But when you said the Masons, that connected some more dots, and I'll tell you why. I lived in this small town in Virginia, and really there were 500 people in the town. And I knew a lot of people because I lived there 18 years. And many of them were Masons. And the Mason, the hall was, a mile down the road from our farm in town. Here's the point, Mike. The Masons were for the prison. You're absolutely right. I couldn't believe it. And the Masons are the town fathers. Those are the movers and shakers, the blue bloods, the royalty of this little hamlet in Virginia. The guys who wanted the prison. The guys who were willing to step on their friends and neighbors and trash the entire town for their own personal gain. It's disgraceful. Boy, my blood is boiling. I'm glad we have a commercial break. Mike and I will be right back. Mike Parsons with us. Mike, I was thinking back to a bunch of our meetups, and we used to have a former cop, a former local cop, not Springfield, but a small town. And he would come to the meetups, and he didn't want people to know where he lived because he put people in jail. Now, my question to you is, do the guards use their real names? Do they have name tags that say, their real names on them? Do they have their first name, their last name? But as we continue this answer, Mike, are they worried about retaliation? And why do they put guests in the prison system so far away from their homes? Can you tie all that together, please?
Yes, the name tags that I saw had the first initial and the last name, and some just had the last name only. They do not want people to know where they live simply because of the retaliation, because a lot of these guys in prison have family and friends outside that would seek to, even the score, so to speak, as it were. They move people around in the prison system as a form of punishment to prevent the family from having easy access to their loved ones. It is merited out without exception in many cases just because a guard doesn't like you or one of the administration doesn't like you. In my case, the warden at the prison I was at did an administrative transfer, an emergency administrative transfer, which is in the policy. He can, for any reason at all or no reason, ship anyone out of his prison immediately. And he ordered that to be done to me, and I got the word. And I called a friend of mine who called the lieutenant governor of the state and reminded him that they had an innocent man in prison, and they were trying to ship me away from my family and away from my resources. And the lieutenant governor secretary got on the phone to the person over the prison system, and within 30 minutes it stopped. Now, that was all the help that I got the entire time from anybody within government. But the government, once you're in the system, you're their property as they view it, and they have the right to move you anywhere. The reality is that most people cannot afford to call home when they're across the state lines. From here, I could call relatively locally. It would cost me $3 a minute. Okay? If I'm calling to East Tennessee from West Tennessee, it would be $6 a minute or $9 a minute or $10 a minute, depending on the zone. How many phone calls can you make at that rate? How many people whose loved one doesn't have you there to help contribute? How many of these wives out there can, paying the bills, taking care of the kids, taking care of all these other things, can afford to have their husband called? Very few. Very few. And that destroys a lot of households and a lot of marriages because without communication, it's a problem.
Who's profiting, Mike?
They do that intentionally.
Who's profiting at $6 and $9 a minute?
Yes, and the prison system has a private company that does the phones. That's why the inmates are willing to take the chance and pay $400 to get a cell phone that their family can reload minutes on, because the risk is outweighed by the cost. And if they get caught and they get moved around, they don't care. They'll spend another $400 and get another phone, because it's more important for them to talk to their family than it is as to where they're located, because the state of Tennessee is almost 500 miles long from point to point. It's closer for me in the Memphis, Tennessee area to go to Canada in a straight line than it is to the farthest points of Johnson City, Tennessee. And for a person to come visit their loved one from Johnson City, Tennessee to Henning, Tennessee, it's a 10-hour drive if they're going the speed limit plus, and then to stay in a hotel and then to drive back to go to work, it doesn't happen that frequently. So They do that to merit out punishment and to separate you from your resources and to break you financially. And then if they want to take all of your fighting your case like me, they keep moving you around so that they can go through your stuff and steal all your documents and paperwork and see what your case is and eliminate the pertinent things that they see. So you've missed filing dates, you miss appeal times, you don't have the communication that you otherwise would have, and so you lose your appeal.
We need a new bill in the Missouri State House of Representatives that says, one sentence, phone calls in and out of prison cannot cost any more than a typical phone call at X cents per minute. Mike Parsons, we got to do this again. We have to do this again. There's so much information that you have to share with us outside of prison that we need to know. Will you come back?
We'll do it. Be glad to.
Mike, thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Class, please stay tuned for hour number 2, Roy Birdsong, Inside the Cellular Telephone Industry. We'll be back in just a few minutes after top of the hour news.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. This is hour number 2, USAPrepares.com. Roy Birdsong's with us, and we're going to be talking about inside the cellular telephone industry. Roy Birdsong, choose your own wireless. He's in Springfield, Missouri on 2900 South Campbell if you'd like to go visit his store. Hey, welcome, Roy.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Roy, it's always a hoot when I'm with you, and when you come to the meetups, you just kind of walk in quietly and everybody kind of smiles because Roy's here. Roy, you're
at least we're not going to get kicked off.
Roy, I've been fired 6 times from the radio, but not on Genesis. Genesis, they say that they don't have any problems with me. They don't get any complaints. They don't have any problems. And I don't cause them any problems. So I guess we'll be around for a little while anyway. So why did you?
I was kind of referring to what happened to us at the meetup this past Monday. I'm not to blame for this one this time. I mean, if your listeners remember, in the past we had to leave we got kicked out of a Hy-Vee supermarket here in Springfield meeting room because we talked about cell phones, and I was the blame for that one. I don't know who was the blame for this last one. Do you?
Well, it's funny you say that because we had Dr. Judy Wood was doing a live teleseminar with us on Monday, as you know, and the place was packed. And what happened was Ken Hurley was setting up the equipment with me, and one of our young interns was helping. And I'm going to keep his name off the air because he is less than 18 years of age. But he was helping us, and Ken Hurley was. And Ken Hurley came up to me while I was setting up some of the sound equipment, and he said, "Hey, Vinny, we got to be out of here early tonight. They're kicking us out early." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Are you serious?" He goes, "As a heart attack." And I said, "I can't believe it." So I was furious, but I didn't have time to really fully ignite because I was feverishly trying to get the sound equipment and the communications hooked up so Dr. Judy Wood could be, on the air and doing a live teleseminar with her PowerPoint presentation. But so later that evening, around 8 o'clock, the waitress summoned me over and she said, "Hey, look, you guys got to be out of here." And I said, "Like when?" And she said, "Well, I got a whole group of 100 people from a sorority coming at 9:30, so you guys got to be out of here." And I thought about it for a while, and I said, so what do you want us to do? I said, we're doing a world-class presentation here, no kidding, about the 9/11 towers. And I told her I was absolutely livid. And I was so angry. I said, you know what? We'll be back next week, but I don't know if we're coming back after that because I don't know what happened. I still don't know what happened to why we got thrown out because we're there every single Monday night. And yet a sorority that it's hard to believe that a sorority would come over at 9:30 at night, 100 people on a Monday on a school night. I mean, I was in a fraternity, and we never went out at 9:30 at night across town to a restaurant. So I don't know. Roy, I don't know if this is a sign that they want that the government of the city of Springfield is furious with us and they're applying leverage or what. I don't know. But I'm going to try to find out. So
well,
this time it wasn't.
Her presentation was very powerful. Her research is undisputable, and I found it. And as most people did, you started immediately right after when we shut down. She's coming back next Monday night, by the way, isn't she? We're going to finish her presentation. She's going to do another one for us next Monday, so we can finish the presentation.
Yeah, she's going to be back next Monday for part 2 and questions. You know, she went from about 6:15 to 9:15, and then everybody just ran out the door because we had to be out of there. But I asked her if she would come back.
They didn't run out before they started buying the books.
Well, what we did was we said, if you want the books, the book cover price is $39.95, so there's shipping involved and tax, and we did the whole thing for $40. So we're selling them at, well, she's sending them to me. I'm fronting the money to pay her to get them, and then the students who wanted them paid $40, and the books are going to be delivered on Monday. But we're sold out, so I'll have to order more.
I can't remember. Did you? Can they go to your website and put in an order for those books?
They can go to the website, page 1, Roy, and they can order. They can go to our website, usaprepares.com, and there's a post for where did the towers go. Click on that, and then from there, there's a link to her website, where you can buy the books. Or if you just want to come to the meetup, you can buy the books. And what we do is we have an arrangement with Dr. Judy Wood to get the books autographed, and it's really, really nice to have an autographed copy. To me, those are some of my most prized possessions, the autographed copies of books, and I keep them all in the studio. But yeah, she was great, Roy. Hey, Roy.
Well, I think I would like to invite any of the listeners out there who have never been to a meetup, those that have and haven't been back for a while. They really this next Monday, when she finishes up her facts presentation on what happened on 9/11, I invite all the listeners out there. This might be one that you'd want to show up and listen to because it's a pretty powerful presentation.
Yeah, and it's absolutely free, Roy. We don't charge, we don't charge for the Ziggy type meetups. And I've gotten a whole bunch of emails suggesting, hey, why don't you bring the meetup to my town? Seriously, Roy, people want us to move out of Ziggy's and move to another location. So that's a possibility. I've got to talk to the owner and find out exactly what happened.
I think it's time to invest in a USA Prepares mobile trailer. You can move. You can go from town to town and have the meet up in the different areas that people have requested you to show up and have the meetup. It's a little difficult with our mobile trailer to be able to satisfy everybody, but you got to remember, last Monday, for example, there were no chairs left over. Well, I saw new people there.
Yeah. We had a dentist came for the first time, and he said that he bought her book. He couldn't believe that she was, doing a live teleseminar with us. And then he found out that she was supposed to be there in person, and I asked her not to show up in person because I didn't want her to spend the travel money just to come out to Ziggy's 2,000-mile trip. But Roy, your store has become, the hangout. For when we're not meeting up at Ziggy's on Monday, your store has become the hangout. People come there for information, what's new, what's happening. That's fascinating, Roy. And I want to share some.
it's not only fascinating, but it makes my job going to work on a day-to-day basis, being able to connect to the people that come in the store every day. And you're right. We discuss everything from cell phones and how to manage your account to politics to, just insurance needs. We have insurance people coming in and out the door. Yesterday we had an insurance, a mother and a son who own an agency in Nixa. They were in the store yesterday, and in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes, they were giving kind of a little seminar on what the Affordable Health Care Act is going to do to people, and it sure awakened a lot of eyes of people that were standing in the store when they were talking about it. This is we kind of have an open forum there. You've been there. You know what it's like.
Well, I was thinking, Roy, what you need to do is have coffee and have people buy the USAPrepares.com GCN coffee mugs or USAPrepares.com Big Country 99 Rooster coffee mugs. And if they buy one, then they get free coffee, and just bring your coffee mug in with them and have informal classes at Choose Your Own Wireless, which is a class, for those of you who don't know, 2900 South Campbell in Springfield, Missouri. Well, hey, Roy, here's something that happened to me yesterday. I wanted to buy a jersey, with a hooded jersey. Sometimes they call them hoodies now, and I needed a couple for the farm, because I get on the tractor and sometimes the weather's a little chilly, and I'll just pull the hood over and so forth. And
you need them for air travel too, right?
So I went to buy them, and there's a factory outlet in Lebanon. And I hadn't been there for a year, and so I went to pay for it, and I pulled out my credit card, my Anthony Soprano Visa card. And the girl looked at me, and she smiled, and she said, "I remember you." And then she said, Pam Anderson was here, and she was rattling off some names of some of these famous people who have been to the factory outlet. And she said, when Pam Anderson was here, she didn't look anything like the Pam Anderson that she sees on television. Roy, here's what I'm saying. People are now following this lead where they're getting credit cards and cell phones in names of their favorite television actor, musicians, performers, ball players. They're getting, Garth Brooks, right? It's unbelievable. It's taken off.
Well, you started that.
Well,
you started that all by your little self.
I wouldn't say that, Roy, but I did announce that I have an Anthony Soprano credit card. My son is Anthony Soprano Jr., and I have credit cards in all different kinds of names. And the girl was really funny at the cashier at the factory outlet where I was buying this hooded jersey. She said, "I'm going to need to see your ID." And I smiled and I said, "I can't do it. I can't give you an Anthony Soprano ID." Well, maybe I should make one up. Maybe I should make up a press pass.
Well, that happens to me at the store. Ever since I've been involved with USA Prepares and people are preparing, they come in now, and with the seminars that I've given in the past, they finally realized not only can they get credit cards in those names, but they can get a cell phone in those same names.
Hey, let's talk about that.
We must have about 15 or 20 Marilyn Monroes running around town here. They're dedicated to the female population who come in and buy cell phones from me, but basically...
Hold on. Roy Birdsong's with us. Roy, I remember the first Marilyn Monroe, one of our USAPrepares.com instructors, signed up with your phone service, and she became the first Marilyn Monroe. So now you say there's between 15 and 20 total Marilyn Monroes in the Ozarks?
Oh yes, they're all running around with phones that are with the Marilyn Monroe tag to them. Whenever you do business on a non-contract basis, you really don't have to put all your personal information in there. You can actually, and people don't know this, and other retailers, whoever does this, they don't realize this either, but you can actually be anonymous whenever you sign up one of these, because everything is directed to, and the protocols are all based off the cell phone number, not the name of the person on the other end of the phone. Remember, there's no contract, so there's no personal information whenever you sign up for one of these. So we've got Reba McEntire running around out there, and in fact, the first Marilyn Monroe actually has blonde hair, like Marilyn.
Well, so, every once in a while, I get a hug from that Marilyn Monroe, and her husband gives me a hug, and her son gives me a hug. So they are really, really wonderful people. So, I don't want you to think that we're a bunch of bad people out there, but we're just trying to deal with the system. Okay, they want to track us, so we just want to make it more fun for them, so they could say, "Wait a minute, there's 20 of these Marilyn Monroes. Which Marilyn are we talking about?"
Well, I was reading on the internet just yesterday. You talk about anonymity. Out in California, and I think it was San Diego, a guy got ticketed for using his cell phone while he was driving down the road. And he wasn't texting, he wasn't talking on it, he was using the GPS mapping system in it. And he was issued a ticket, and he went to court and fought over it and lost. They said any distraction, whether it be GPS, texting, talking, whatever, is disallowed in California, in that particular city, and probably, knowing California, is probably disallowed in most of California, because the truckers have been complaining. All those truckers that go out west and cross into California, all are very careful about using any cell phone at all. Whenever they're in California, so much so that one of the truckers who was a trained engineer at one time and used to install cell phone towers, came up with the idea that you could use the old analog. You remember the old home phone handsets? And I think you've got one that is Bluetooth compatible with your phone.
Yeah.
He actually came up with that idea before we even saw it. He's been talking to me for 5 years now, trying to get me to design one of these phones. Before he could get to after he got through the conceptual stage, before we could even get anybody to listen to build it, it already popped out. The early versions of that, you had to plug it into the speaker jack on your phone. The one that you have is a Bluetooth compatible. So that sprang out of his idea that is legal. He researched the law. It's legal to have that up to your ear, but it's not legal to have a cell phone up to your ear. I mean, this is how ridiculous.
Roy, I'm with you. I actually think that you said distractions, right? In California, whether it's you can't have any distraction, whether it's GPS or cell phone, correct?
That's not necessarily in the whole state of California, but you know how California runs. If San Diego is making it illegal, it won't be long before the rest of the cities in California will be making it illegal, basically, to use a cell phone, period, for anything while you're driving down the road. Much less doing GPS mapping. The point I'm trying to make is we have a serious conflict here. If they're going to start making it illegal to be able to use your GPS mapping, then why do we need GPS in our cell phones?
Well, yeah, and not only that, Roy, let's just take it to its natural conclusion. So I am supporting not using cell phones while we're driving, okay? And that means that I also support the police not using their radar guns in their cars, and I also support them not using their notebook computers in their cars, and I also support them not using their two-way radios in their cars. As a matter of fact, let's be
that too. I see many of them going down the road using their laptops.
Yeah, Roy, when we come back, let's talk about if a person wants to be totally anonymous. We've done it before. Let's do it again. Let's tell them how to do it. Be totally anonymous on a cell phone. Pretty cool, right? We'll be right back. Right, Birdsong's with us. Choose your own wireless. 2900 South Campbell Avenue, Springfield, Missouri. And if you'd like to stop in, he's on 2900 South Campbell, Springfield, Missouri. And his phone number, if you'd like to call the store, 417-823-3715, 417-823-3715. Roy Birdsong's been with us for, so many meetups. He's been at the Get Prepared Expo since Expo number 1. He gives a seminar on what's really happening inside the cell phone industry and how to really drive down your cell phone costs to the absolute lowest possible. Roy, anonymous phone calls. We've been talking about Garth Brooks, Marilyn Monroe. What do we do to get to become anonymous? What is the minimum amount of information that we have to provide to our salesperson? Let's say we come to you. What do I have to give you in order to have an Anthony Soprano telephone?
Virtually, if you're getting a new number, and this is the thing that I want your listeners to think about. If you're porting a number, there is no way you can gain anonymity because you're porting that number from a history. Let's just say you were with Verizon and you came into me and you wanted to get, try to get anonymity whenever you got a cell phone. There's virtually no way you can do that if you port a number because you have a history with that number. So you could port that number into one of my MVNOs, and if anybody wants to check where that phone number came from, all they got to do is run the phone number and they'll see a history on it. You can't evade that part of it. You have already lived through that. You have created that cell phone number and the personality of that cell phone number. So the only way you can get anonymity is to get a brand new phone number. What a lot of the people do whenever they call me or come in to see me, and we do a lot of this over the phone. We've done several just this past week outside of Missouri, people that call in from outside the state, is to just get, most of the people are just getting a basic phone if they want anonymity, basic flip phone, or in most cases they've got their own phone, and we hook them up, and one of the plans that we use, the more popular plans, is if they don't need it to talk on it all the time, they just need it as a go-to phone if there's an emergency. They pay a one-time fee of $80. That gives them 2,000 minutes to use for a whole year. So that breaks out to less than $7 a month, and that's about as cheap cell phone service as you can get, and it runs on Verizon's network. So when they call, if they get a new number, we virtually can put any information in there if they want anonymity that they want us to put in there, because all of it is pretty much not even for billing. It's just to set the account up. So there's without billing being attached to it, without having a reoccurring bill each month, you really don't have to give specific information.
Okay, I was talking to a young man who does not have a credit history, and on purpose, he does not have a credit history. So a person without a credit history can get one of these anonymous phones just by paying cash, correct?
That's correct. Even if you can have no credit history, bad credit history, it really doesn't make any difference. It's only predicated on one thing, and that is your ability each month to pay to take care of your own bill. There's no paper trail here. They don't send you a bill. That's part of the way they keep the prices down so low. They don't have a intricate billing system. It's pretty much left in the individual's hands to monitor and take care of their own account. Now, one of the things that we do is we have a billing system that we set up. If they want to put a debit card or a credit card or something on file, we will make their payment for them each month. If they don't want to do that, they just call us each month and make the payment over the phone, or they can go to the website. Not everybody does that. What I'm doing right now is strange and different because there's no contract. Premium MVNOs. It's unlike the prepaid stuff that you get at Walmart and that you see like Consumer Cellular that AARP pushes. All of these products are created on the prepaid side of all of this, and it's created for an income stream. They really don't care what carriers their phones run on. They just sell it and push it because they make money off of it. Now, we sell to every carrier in the country, for example, and anybody that's worth their salt doing this non-contract stuff better know what works, where it works, and how it works, because it makes a difference. Because without that knowledge and that expertise, you're just wasting your money.
Roy, let me see if I've got this right. You're saying that there are not all cell phone prepaid coverage is the same. You may get better or worse coverage depending on which plan you go with. Is that correct?
No, which carrier you're with, and
carrier.
It's up to whoever you're purchasing your product from for them to be able to advise you. What we get paid for in my business is the expertise of knowing what works, where it works, and how to make it work correctly. And we're the only ones doing this. In Springfield, we're the only ones doing this because the few that are doing the non-contract or the prepaid, most of the others are doing prepaid, they don't care where it works. You got to understand the mentality. The mentality is sell your phone, activate the phone, get paid, and they want to be done with you. Mm-hmm. My customers come back. I have probably get 98% retention rate because they rely on me to give them accurate information. This is just one less thing they have to worry about in their day-to-day activities. If they know they can come by or talk to us, we repair phones, so we can tell them whether the phone's worth repairing. So we save people a lot of money. And most of the plans that we do, whenever we switch people off of these heavy contracts that they're on with the major carriers, we save some people as much as half. Some people I've even saved more than that. Half of what they're paying each month, and they're running on the same network, and in a lot of cases, using the same phone. We just got, we are going to basically be the same thing as major carriers that you walk in and sign a contract with. In about another week, we'll be able to offer high-speed internet on a cell phone, and that is called 4G LTE. That's unheard of. And by another 7 to 10 days, after we get it in and test it, it should be ready to go. The point I'm trying to make is not that we're doing it. It is the industry is being pushed really fast on the non-contract side because the consumer's going there as fast as they can get there. They're jumping off these plans, and this industry is going to be the main cell phone industry a year and a half from now. Maybe it may come sooner than later, but this is where everybody's going. Nobody wants to sign contracts. Give you an idea. Guy, one of my customers comes in. He's been a customer of ours for a while. He came in, and he's now selling credit card processing. And it's a really good deal. The company he was repping was a really good company. It's a good deal, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. And we got to the end of the conversation. He says, all of this is XYZ in price, and he said, you have to sign a 4-year contract. I said, look around you. I said, we don't do contracts here. He looked at me kind of funny. He said, but you have to. I said, no, I don't. I said, I'm not under contract now with my credit card processing. So we pushed him a little bit, and he said, call your boss and tell him that I'm interested in doing it, but I'm not going to sign a contract. And he said, well, they won't do it. I said, well, call them and ask them. It won't hurt to ask. So he realizes that we're holding fast on not signing the contract, and he calls his boss, and lo and behold, his boss says, oh, okay, well, we can do this one time. So, the point here is we've got to quit being indentured to companies under contracts. It's not necessary. And
so, Roy, let me see.
That is our main theme at the store. There is to save you as much money, make it as least cumbersome as possible, and easy to use. And under my premium MVNOs, you can, if you run into hard times, and next month, let's say you're on a $50 plan this month, next month you can only afford to pay $12. That's all you have to pay. You don't have to change phones. You don't have to do any of that. You just call up and say, hey, money's tight this month. I only want $12 basic service. We switch it and change it.
Roy, let me ask you this.
30 days or 60 days, and I've had people do that already, where they're carrying a smartphone, and they can. On a $30 plan with us, with a premium MVNO, you can carry a smartphone and use Wi-Fi for your data. In some some cases, some of the plans give you free 500 megabytes of data to use. That's given to you for free for that same $30. So the point I'm trying to make is they don't have to change phones. They don't have to do anything. If they're on a $50 plan or a $55 plan 1 month and they don't have the money next month, they could still keep their service, just pay less.
Roy, let me ask you this. When somebody has, when they pay by the month rather than pay the $80 for a year, does their credit card information tie to their cell phone payment to you? I mean, what I'm saying is, does that cell phone number get tied to that credit card if they pay by credit card?
If they pay by credit card, it does.
Okay, so what they really should do...
As a warehouse, we are doing for them what they would do on their own. Now, my next observation on that is what I've been advising people to do, and you have already done this. I know you have. I'm advising people to try to get away from peripheral use of their credit card by going to a prepaid credit card. And again, you can get a prepaid credit card. It can be called Marilyn Monroe. It can be called Reba McEntire. You just go and you put $500 on it or whatever you've got that you want to put on it and pay some bills that you want anonymity with. Pay those bills with a prepaid credit card. And that's what some of my customers are already doing that. They were totally unaware that you could walk into a bank and get a prepaid credit card. And it's nothing more than a gift card. I mean, it's one and of the same, but they get a prepaid credit card, and they can put that prepaid credit card number on file, and each month they can put cash on that, and they can complete the circle of anonymity if that's the way you want to do it.
There you go. Now, Roy, what about turning off GPS? When we come back, I'd like to share with the class turning off GPS because, frankly, I do not like the idea of my phone following me around and reporting my whereabouts to anyone. I really mean that, especially the government. They've got no business following me around. I'm not doing anything wrong, and neither are you. Let's keep them out of our business. Let's tell us how to do it when we come back. Well, the federal government's at it again. There's an air marshal who's accused of taking photographs under skirts of women. A federal air marshal has been arrested. He's accused of taking photographs under women's skirts in Nashville police. I've got this guy. And what happened? A witness noticed it and took this guy's phone. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? So he was using a phone to take pictures. Roy Birdsong's with us. And Roy, turning off our GPS, that's what we need to do. I want to do it, and I want to make sure that anyone else who wants to turn off the GPS so that they can't be tracked whenever they're either in movement or at home, because people seem to bring their phones with them everywhere. How do we do it, Roy?
Well, first of all, there's kind of two rules of thought on this, and it's going to require more than a 5 or 6, 7 minute explanation. But you cannot, if you bought a phone in the last 18 to 24 months, you cannot remove the GPS chip out of the. It's installed, and it's permanently embedded in that phone, and you can't get rid of it. Now, a lot of people talk about this. Hello?
Yep, we're good.
Hello? I'm sorry, I lost my connection. A lot of people talk about this. What I recommend people do is to get a basic phone if they want anonymity and they want to be able to lose the GPS side of it. The early editions of all these cell phones, and I'm going to correct myself on this one because I did a little more in-depth research. Shannon and I did my main tech. All phones, even early cell phones, had a rudimentary form of GPS in it, but they don't work anymore. They were based off of a different system. So it's hard to track a phone, and I think it dates back to 2003 and 2004. On basic phones only. Smartphones, when we started building smartphones, we kind of got into this motherboard, the GPS chip. We made available more space and more room for things that could be added to it. And as we evolved more into smartphones, we got more into 911, all of this. If you've got a regular cell phone bill, you'll see that you pay a 911 tax on that, a federal tax to support the 911, and that's all based off of global positioning. So if you want anonymity and you want to kind of get away from that, you got to predate yourself back to 2003, 2002, 01, maybe 99 to get a basic phone, basic talk and text. That's all you'll get if you go back to 2000, 2001, because we had very few smartphones back then. And they were all rudimentary smartphones, and the entry level, that's what began this evolution into smartphones. So they weren't sophisticated enough to be able to handle the new tracking system that they have now. So most of those don't work. I have heard rumors that there is devices out there that can eliminate the signal being sent, if you buy a device, I don't even know what it's called, but if you buy this device, it will eliminate being able to track you even on a current phone. So a lot of people out there are looking for ways to get around that. But as far as GPS goes, if you've got a current phone that you purchased somewhere in the last 24 months, you got the newest form of GPS. The GPS-specific GPS chip has been embedded in that phone. So anything prior to that, the farther back you go, the better off you are, because you keep getting, if you go backwards, you keep getting more rudimentary. Now, the reason why I'm correcting myself is I was under the impression that there was no GPS in the early versions of the basic handheld phone. But there was. And all they used back then was what they called triangulation. So when you were using your phone and you were driving down the road and they were trying to find you, they used triangulation. In other words, what tower did you use last when you used your cell phone? What tower are you using now when your phone's on? In other words, what tower is communicating with your phone? And they could closely pinpoint approximately where you were at. Right now, it's even more accurate than that. That's why this new GPS system, embedded chip that they've got, it is more accurate.
Hey, Roy, we're out of
than the
time.
old system.
Roy, we are out of time. I can't believe it. Roy Birdsong, Choose Your Own Wireless, Springfield, Missouri. Link on the website, page 1, usaprepares.com, if you want to contact Roy Birdsong. Choose Your Own Wireless, Springfield, Missouri. Roy, thanks so much for being with us, class. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.